Afternoon. Thank you, Leo, for the invite. So today, I was told to share a little bit about our fund and also to share some of the entrepreneurs or startup environment landscape in Taiwan or Taipei, and specifically focusing on Web3. So my coworkers have very kindly helped me prepare the slides. So in the next, I think, half an hour, I will go over, I will give a brief introduction about our fund, and then I will share an overview of, some of the Web3 ecosystem overview and resources in Taiwan. And then I think the next half an hour, we can open up for questions. Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. So I'm the managing partner of Cherubic Ventures. I've joined the fund since 2014. Before I joined, I started out in advertising and then got my business degree in UCLA Anderson, and then worked in the Bay Area for about 3 years, and came back to Taiwan to work on a startup with my friend, and then I joined Cherubic. So before I joined VC, I had some experience in running my own startups as well as working in large companies and working in, with that cross-functional team across the world. And after I joined Cherubic, I feel really fortunate, to be able to grow with the fund. And when I first joined, we had about maybe 15 portfolios, and now we have close to 200 portfolio across the world. And our fund size also have grown from just 10 million to now 400 million total AUM. So I really enjoy working with all the entrepreneurs around the world. So a little bit about us. We are early stage seed fund. Our style is more of, because we invest really early, so we treat ourselves as the partner, not just an investor of our portfolio. So usually when company are in a very early stage, they really need help with almost like everything, right? So obviously, I think our role is, to provide them with guidance, advice, help them fundraise, help them think about their strategy. So we're really close with our portfolios, and oftentimes when they have problems, they will tell us. And not the typical. I don't know how much exposure you guys have with startups, but a lot of time, when the relationship between founders and investors sometimes are more distant, and when you have something bad happen, sometimes you don't necessarily want to share that with your investor. But for us, we keep a really close relationship with our portfolios. So we are usually quite close, and half of our portfolios are in North America, and the other half is in Asia, and mostly Taiwan or Greater China. So we have some exits, and a lot of our portfolio are doing really well, so they're valued over at $100 million. Yeah, so basically we're really founder oriented. When we make investment decision, oftentimes the two most important things are the team, right? Whether we think the team, the founders are the best in what they're doing in their industry, and then the market. If the market they're targeting is big enough and has 10x, 100x potential, and when we invest, we're in it for the long haul. A lot of investors, when they invest, their investment horizon might be 2 years, 3 years, and they're looking to exit. But oftentimes when we invest, it's still very early on, usually before Series A. So it takes anywhere from 5, 6 years, or even longer, 8 years, 10 years, for a company, from zero to become a billion-dollar company to exit. So we are here for the long haul. And we, how we differentiate it with the other VCs that, we have our portfolios are in the US. And for them, they really are looking for someone who can help with international or Asia insights to have that kind of perspective on the cap table. So, oftentimes, given our Asia presence, we have teams here in Taipei, in Shanghai, have teams in, the US, Canada. It's really diverse team, and also spread out quite globally. So a lot of founders, they really appreciate how we bring those the global perspective to them from day one. So here's a little glimpse of some of our portfolio. As you can see, we invest in anything that we can understand. So we are sector agnostic. But we do have a lot of portfolios in consumer tech, enterprise, healthcare, and blockchain. But then we do have, a lot of portfolios in other areas as well, like AI, mobility, logistic. So, we don't focus on any specific industry. Okay, so that's a little bit background about us, our fund. And then now I'm going to share a little bit about, the Web3 ecosystem in Taiwan or in Taipei. So I think before we dive into Web3, we can first give you an overview of the tech industry of Taiwan. So as some of you may know, obviously Taiwan is known for its semiconductor industry. You might have heard of TSMC. It has become, a very hot topic during the last 2 years, given the supply chain crunch. Right, many people realize, wow, the half of the chips in this world is manufactured in Taiwan. TSMC is really important, so we cannot let, we cannot let anything happen to TSMC, right? So TSMC in Taiwan has a nickname. It's called the guardian, of Taiwan. Like, because of TSMC, we become much more valuable, or we get a lot of attention because it has the strategic value to top companies in the world, in the US, in China, and everywhere. So semiconductor is a key industry in Taiwan, and also consumer electronics. Everyone knows iPhone, and HTC. Foxconn. They are one of the top vendors that work with iPhone to help assemble, and a lot of aside from iPhone, also I think other consumer electronics. So there's a big industry of hardware, consumer electronics in Taiwan, and as well as manufacturing. So that HTC, it used to be really, top cell phone and VR goggle headsets maker. Later on they sold their I think mobile division to Google, but it's still quite a nice company in Taiwan, have really good branding. So yeah, Taiwan is typically known for these industries. However, in the software markets, I think Taiwan is also trying to catch up. So in the past 10 years, I'll say, slowly there has been a very vibrant startup ecosystem in Taiwan. There's a lot of startups, competition or accelerators, and there's more and more investments. VCs, they're looking into to invest in software companies here. And starting last year, we are starting to see some exits in the space as well. So, there's a couple company in app here. They IPO'd in Japan last year, and 91 app. They're actually a portfolio of Cherubic. They also IPO'd, I think, recently. So these are some of the success story, and I think in the next few years we're going to see more and more software company in Taiwan that IPO or exiting. So the software industry is definitely growing, which is aligned with the global trend of software, but basically going to every industry. So we have some stats here that said the last few years, we have 100 or so companies, software companies that have successfully raised close to $1 billion. So that also means, the amount of capital that are pouring to startups here are also, obviously you can compare that with Silicon Valley or rest of the world, but I think it's definitely growing every year, and it's drawing more interest. And so a lot of young talents are also, looking to join startups nowadays than before. Okay, now let's talk about blockchain or Web3 ecosystem here. So some of you may know, starting 2020, right? There's DeFi summer, and one of the Taiwanese company called Perpetual Protocol. They're actually did really well in the DeFi industry and considered one of the top DEX that have future products, and so but their headquarters is in Taiwan. They were invested by, I think, Binance and a lot of other Web3 investors. So so that's one of the more notable company. And then there's our Song, which is an NFT platform. Their vision is that anyone should be able to create their NFT very easily, and they can use that to monetize their creation or their work. So they're helping a lot of the small creators to use NFT as a way to make money, to maintain relationship with fans. They're also from Taiwan, and John Legend and the American singer is actually, it's one of the co-founder and chief impact officer. We also have Blockto. Blockto is the wallet on the Flow protocol or Flow chain. They are they're actually one of the most active, I think, company that are building products for Flow. So they're really close with the company. I mean, if you don't know what's Flow, I mean, you probably have heard of NBA Top Shop, right? So NBA Top Shop is it's one of the products from the NFT created by Flow. So Blockto is also a very famous company. And then we have U Network, which is a liquidity provider and a exchange. They're also, one of the top maybe 10 or 20 exchange in the world, and they have a huge office here in Taipei. And their founders are actually from the US. They used to work at Citadel. So that just shows you a lot of the the top talents in the world. They're choosing to base their company here in Taipei because of the tech talents, because of a lot of the other reasons that I will go into later on. And last but not least, we have Cybavo. It's a custody solution. They were recently acquired by Circle. So I actually visited them yesterday, and they also have a really nice office in downtown Taipei. And the CEO of Cybavo told me that they were meeting with Circle, and Circle told them that Circle actually has a fully remote policy. So they don't actually have a real office. They have a tiny office that's used to receive mails or just for legal purpose. They don't actually have a a true office where employees are working in office. So they saw Cybabo's office. They're like, oh wow, that's our company's first real like physical office. So that was very interesting. Yeah, so Cybaba was acquired by Circle, and it kind of serves as the custody uh, product for Circle, and can also help them to look at other Asia projects that might be interesting for Circle to collaborate with. Okay, so that was some of the more notable companies in Taiwan. I think those are worth mentioning because, if you look at, if you think of like software industry or I guess software industry, you can't really think about any top company that are from Taiwan, right? If you think of like, oh, what's the top software company, right? Oh, Google, Amazon, or Microsoft, Facebook, Instagram. Like none of these, they're mostly American company, right? So the U.S. has a huge advantage when it comes to software. However, in the world of blockchain, because it's a lot more, it's borderless, right? It's when you're on a blockchain, you are instantly connected with anyone else in the world, um, without any border restriction. So I think that is that's what it gives a lot of the Taiwan, or actually any country in this world, they have an advantage to break out of the dominance, of the, let's say, the U.S. or maybe Chinese software startups, right? So in the world of blockchain, it's almost like everyone has the same a leveling a playing field. So I think because of that, um, you know, we have quite a few notable companies here, blockchain companies here in Taiwan. And also the environments here and the user here in Taiwan are quite open and interested in participating or using, exploring the various blockchain or crypto products. So to start off, Taiwan is actually a really rich country. I think I read a study that says, by uh, absolute number, and the number of, Taiwan ranks number 9 in terms of the number of millionaires, in the country. So Taiwan is actually a very rich country, and so here we have a data that shows that about 30% of the trading volume on FTX is coming from Taiwan, and of 6% of users are from Taiwan. So that shows you that Taiwanese love trading, right? They love making money. So for them, right, trading stocks, trading crypto, just very similar. So they get it right away. And it's relatively easy to on-ramp, off-ramp your crypto, between crypto and fiat. So I think a lot of Taiwanese are definitely using crypto and trading. So that's why Binance, FTX, they all have people here in Taiwan because they know it's one of the top markets in Asia. And in addition, there's a lot of interesting applications here in Taiwan. For example, like Taiwanese love to eat. If you've been to Taiwan, we have a lot of night markets. So one of our portfolio, our song, that actually collaborate with a night market vendor to create a food NFT. It's more of a marketing campaign, but it was very popular. It went viral. And so people were lining up to buy like Shensuji NFT, like fried chicken NFT, and try to redeem it. And so it actually made it to the news. So it's a great marketing campaign for the company, and it just also shows that there's a lot of interesting use case and made possible because the people here are just very open to try new things. And to continue, right, we have a big NFT community as well. I know some parts of the world, right, people might be very turned off by NFT. I think like a big scam, but I think in Taiwan, I think there are a lot of celebrities, brands, artists. They're very interested in NFT. They're creating their own NFT and all different kinds NFT and different types of campaigns. So I think, because there's a lot of artists and a lot of creatives, talents here. So they see NFT as a way to really let them showcase their ability and creativity and at the same time make some money. So that's why I think, the NFT market has tanked, right? But then I think in Taiwan, you still see a lot of new projects coming out. You see brands, try to use NFT as a marketing, um, you know, approach to attract users. And then also there's a lot of tech talents here in Taiwan. Um, one of the reason that a lot of the company wants to set up their branch here in Taiwan is because we have a lot of developers resources compared to, let's say, Southeast Asia or maybe Hong Kong and Singapore, where it's mostly business people, but very few engineers or tech talents. Taiwan, we have several top technology university that produce a lot of tech graduates every year. And also in general, I think we just have a higher percentage of technical talents than some of our Asian neighborhoods. So that's another good, I guess, attractive point of Taiwan. Okay, now in terms of investor who invests in crypto, obviously we do Cherubic. We're not a Web3 fund. We invest in Web2 as well. But then we feel that blockchain Web3 is going to be the future. So we are actively investing in Web3. And there's also AppWorks, Avenue, Wu Venture, which is the venture arm of Wood Network. There's IBC, there's Palm Drive. So there is also quite a bit of, investor and capital in town that can support these companies. And then there are also co-working space and that are dedicated to support blockchain company. There's this place called Arc Taipei. I think they have exhibitions and they have events to, specifically for companies in this space. And there's other programs as well that are promoting blockchain Web3. So I think, in conclusion, I think Taiwan has a unique position in attracting Web3 talents. The reason being it's the cost of doing business is relatively low here, and it's also very close to some of the top Web3 markets in Asia, such as Southeast Asia, where there's a very vibrant gaming community and new users. Japan, Korea, who are, Japan, there's also a big gaming culture, and Korea is very advanced in terms of metaverse. And also, obviously, the Chinese-speaking community, like China, they have banned crypto. So it has become really hard to build your Web3 company in China. And I think as a result, the neighboring countries are benefiting from the ban. So, I think for Taiwan, that means just more users are looking at, solutions elsewhere. So that's also one, I think, benefit. And again, there's a lot of tech talents, and with a more reasonable salary. And so you don't have to, let's say in the US, you may have to pay a lot of money just to hire one. I think one engineer in the US may probably hire two or three here in Taiwan. So that gives you maybe some edge. And then a very vibrant Web3 community. There are basically networking events every week going on. So if you go to the right one, you can immediately know a lot of other and connected with other founders in the space. And obviously, there's a lot of user interest in using Web3 products, and also relatively friendly regulations. So unlike China, where they're really banning the entire industry, I think Taiwan is quite lenient, at least for now. Although I think they're also kind of looking into more regulation, just to, I guess, control the scams, or because Taiwan, the government is really trying to protect user. It actually has a really conservative, I guess, regulation when it comes to all the fintech or finance company, because the government really want to protect the end users. So I think that when they are looking at on the US now coming up a lot of new regulations to regulate crypto, they might follow, but then they're usually very slow. So you do have some lead time to create your company before the final regulation is done, right? So, but recently they did said that they're not allowing people to buy crypto using your credit card. So that's a new rules. And also, I think most companies here in Taiwan, the Web3 company, are very global actually. A lot of them are now in Korea, because they're participating in the Korea Blockchain Week, and they probably were in New York last month for the NYC NFT. Or they're in Miami for permissionless or consensus. So all of these companies are actually really active, and they globally, and so I think that will make it easier for foreign entrepreneurs to connect with them. And I'm in several Telegram groups that are in the Web3 groups. There are a lot of international startups, projects, companies, and a lot of foreigners as well. So I think if you're doing something Web3, it's really easy to find your community. And lastly, I think Taiwan is really easy to get around and can serve as a starting point for you to base here and then expand to the rest of Asia. So that's my sharing, and I think we are really good on time. So I think now I can open up for questions, and let me stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. Okay, I think right now is a ask Tina anything session. So guys, feel free to ask any questions, or if you feel shy, you can always type in the comment section. But yeah, thank you, Tina. It was actually pretty comprehensive about investments or the startup ecosystem in Taiwan. Thank you, Tina. I have some running questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Yes, so you see me here. Hello. Okay, so since all the teams here are, they're not based in Taiwan, basically, everybody here is either a foreigner or has business outside of Taiwan. So I think as a foreigner or someone who has never come to Taiwan before, what do you suggest, or how they join the local ecosystem of startups in Taiwan? As you mentioned.
Well, Um, well, I think it really depends on what they are. Let me think. I think if you are in, let's say if you're in blockchain or in Web3, it should be relatively easy to reach out to, for example, some of the portfolios I share or the companies I share that are in this space. You know, I think they're usually quite open to connecting to other company in the space. Um, and another way is if you're thinking about coming to Taiwan, maybe you can apply to different accelerators or, and just to kind of understand what is it like. Because usually I think they have a lot of helpful guide. But I guess I think, you can maybe a lot of people still use if you can also use social network, right? Like Facebook or Instagram or Telegram or Discord to find a relevant either companies or groups to join. But I do feel it's probably easier if you do those things after you come to Taiwan. I think it will be probably a lot more helpful. Yeah, I think it really depends on, what you're working on and like what in terms of industry. Um, yeah.
Good. My turn. Okay, thank you for the first question. I actually have always been wanting to ask this question, since when Leo invited you as a speaker, for us. First of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your sharing. But as you mentioned, Cherubic has always been investing in digital startups or startups in the digital realm. But I think you guys started to notice, or Tina, you started to notice the blockchain technology since 2017, which basically was unheard of for most of the people, or even in the startup community. Not a lot of people are talking about blockchain or Web3 at the time. So, could you share about what you saw, what potential you saw, or you know what sparked your interest in Web3 or blockchain during that time?
I think a lot of us, have heard about, you know, um, during 2017 or 18, there was the ICO boom and bust, right? So I think that was something that I guess that's when I first really, experienced the boom, right? The rise and fall. I think that was the second or third cycle. I think I'm most intrigued by the creation of Bitcoin because the white paper of because as some of you know, Bitcoin was created after the financial crisis as a way to escape the control of central government or as a way to be independent and not be controlled by the big banks, right? So I'm always intrigued by that idea. Um, but but obviously it took a long time for the industry to grow and to mature. Um, and I don't and I think the interesting thing about cryptocurrency is, as you can see, one of the use cases, especially now, right, when the world is kind of in chaos, a lot of wars going on.
Yes.
So, you do feel that, oh, when your money, if it's in a exchange, it may be safer than in a local bank. Because what if tomorrow a missile blow up the banks or, your country is destroyed? Or even, we don't have to go to that far. Even, in a lot of the emerging markets, like in Latin America, for example, where the currency is extremely volatile, right? Your government currency could go up and down in 30-40%, every week, every day. So the locals, they need another method of approach, right, to hedge that risk. So I think there is, um, real use case. And now after we're now at, I don't know, fourth, fifth cycle. So now there's more use case, right? We see stable coin, we see some of the financial efficiency created by the smart contract. We see NFT. Obviously, it's still really, really early, so there are a lot of hacks, scams, or a lot of manipulation. So it does seem also very chaotic. But I do feel once more regulation comes in, and once people find out the right use case, maybe let's say 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now, right? I think some of these products will stay and will become essential, or that it will change, a lot of consumer behavior today.
Thank you. Yes, yes, I totally agree, and I believe all the founders here who are working on Web3 or blockchain topics here totally agree on what you're saying is it could potentially change the world, honestly. It could change our consumer life. It could change our user habits, or basically change everything, our perspectives of the world. Yeah, so thank you for your analyst. Um, I also want to ask you, since like 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 the previous question, or the question earlier, since most of the startups here are foreign startups, are there any suggestions, as a VC in Taiwan who invests in a bunch of overseas startups? Are there any suggestions for foreign startups who want to fundraise in Taiwan? Are there any tips and tricks, or are there anything to be aware of?
You mean foreign company wants to fundraise in Taiwan?
Yes, yes, yes.
I think it depends on where, like, let's say if you are a company, you're a startups in the US. I actually would suggest you fundraise in the US because there's a lot more investors there. So it really depends on where
Oh, oh.
where you're from, right? If you're from a region, if you're currently based in a region that has way more investor resources, than Taiwan. It could be U.S. It could be Singapore. It could be where else? I guess these two countries probably the most. Maybe Korea. Those are usually have the most um, access to funding. Then I would suggest do not come to Taiwan to fundraise. However, if you are, well, actually, I guess if you're from this country and you cannot fundraise any money for whatever reasons, I guess you can try come here to Taiwan because Taiwan is really isolated. So there are some investors here. There are, I guess, two types of investor, right? One type investor or VC that only invest in Taiwanese company because their exit strategy is for these companies to go public in Taiwan so they can make their money, right? The other type of company, VC, such as ourselves, right? There are some of us, we do invest in any global company, and so you can try to approach those VC, and sometimes these VC, if they don't have very good deal flow, right? Sometimes they really value an overseas company because they don't see a lot of non-Taiwanese startups, maybe, right? We don't know. So I guess you can target these investors. But I guess my suggestion would be before you come approach these VCs in Taiwan, you should first figure out number one, does their fund invest in overseas company, or do they only invest in Taiwanese company? And number two, I guess the rest are just similar, I guess, with any kind of fundraising, are they the right stage, looking at the right industry, kind of style, does that align with your style? So I think first figure out, whether or not they will even invest in international company. And then, the rest should be more common sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess another tip is, usually if they are used to invest in Taiwan company, their sense of valuation, right, would be lower. Because I don't know if you guys know, but every market, the valuation is different, right? It's like a supply demand. So if you, let's say, if you're American startup or you're a Y Combinator company, you probably can demand a premium if you're from like Silicon Valley, for example. If you're, the right profile or pedigree, your valuation could be a lot higher than, let's say, a local company in Taiwan. So that's also something to bear in mind, that, we hear a lot of big numbers, right, recently, especially in Web3. It seems like, wow, every company raised so much money at such a high valuation and they don't even have a product. And that probably will not happen in Taiwan, because usually Taiwanese VC, or at least local VC, they like to invest in something that's much more tangible, that has a revenue model, has a business model, is generating revenues, and has a reasonable valuation. So, when they go public, they can make money. So the mentality is actually quite different.
Yes, yes, totally agree on what you said about Taiwanese local investors, which are way more conservative compared to, let's say your typical Silicon Valley investors, which are all geared towards high risk, high reward. Taiwan is geared toward the safe bet, which is the consistent,
That's cash flow
income.
generating,
Yeah.
right? Everything is, very much de-risk.
Yes, yes, totally agree.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I guess I see a
thank you for
question
that.
here
Yes,
in the
yes,
chat that asks
yes, yes.
about
I was going to ask that question.
the
Yes, yes.
political risk. I I cannot assess that risk. My thinking is, unfortunately, Taiwan is in a complicated situation, and whether or not there's going to be a war or like a big conflict is really not 100% up to us. It can be manipulated or affected by other countries. So it is quite hard to assess that risk. But I do feel both sides are definitely prepared to go to war if necessary. So the risk is there. So I guess, yeah, but yeah, it's a tough situation, a tough question. Um, I guess if you're really trying to hedge this, right? You you I know some of our portfolios, right? They are thinking about moving their engineers from Taiwan to other countries. Right? So when you're hiring, maybe you make sure these engineers, if they're currently in Taiwan, do they have easy access to somewhere else? Or that is, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. We have to think about that, but actually you kind of maybe need to think about that. So yeah. I mean, a lot of people here don't think that's going to happen, right? A lot of people here actually don't even think about that. So they just keep working and they don't really consider that risk. But I do think it's not impossible. But then the situation is very dynamic. So every day, you know, it's changing every day. So we don't know. But you do want to prepare. Maybe don't have a large team, right? Maybe have a very nimble, just a couple of people, or you know, if you're trying to hedge your risk.
Or maybe a more sort of practical question is, do you actually get asked by investor uh, about some of the companies that like totally based in Taiwan, and then you know if something happened, I think we have figured out a way to hedge it in that we're moving most of our infrastructure to AWS. So I mean, the worst case is that we can just like
Gotcha.
just shut down Taiwan, right? I mean, and we're using Taiwan primarily through Tsinghua University to get the sort of programming talent that is a lot more expensive in Singapore, right? And we are going to maintain a presence in Singapore as well. But I guess the more practical question that we have, which is what our advisor actually asked us to think about, is like, okay, well, in case a question come up from investors, right? How are we going to basically make a case that make them comfortable and because what we do is one thing, right? Investor perception is a different thing.
I'm sorry. Who is asking this question?
Yeah, my name is Bernard. I'm one of the founders who is looking to uh, move some of our technical presence from Singapore to Taiwan. And simply because Singapore right now, the cost base is about 4 times
Yeah.
at least at starting level,
Yeah.
as compared to Taiwan. And more importantly, in Singapore, the good students do not want to become engineers, right? Versus you have a very different attitude in Taiwan, which we have grown to a point where we are actively considering Taiwan, which is one of the places where we think it meet all the criteria. But at the same time, we want to be practical
Yeah.
about the fact that, okay, I mean, because we have to explain it. Even though I'm happy to accept the risk myself, I mean, I still have to explain that to other investors.
Got it. Okay, so you're a founder and you're trying to be cost conscious, be responsible, and hire your tech talents here in Taiwan. However, you're being challenged by your investor because of the political risk. Um, yeah, that is tough. I yeah, I'm not sure how to. I guess um yeah, so I guess going back to what I was, you know, saying, just make sure, you know, if you do hire here, like all your engineers, if something happens, right, they can quickly go to another place. Or I think that's one practical or real solution. Another, if you're just trying to convince the investor, right? Another way maybe to say, hey, you know, the risk of a conflict it's quite low. And even if that happens, you know, a lot of people think it's not going to be like Ukraine, like, you know, it's not going to be, they're not really going for like total like destroy the entire island. So even if that happened, it could be just um I don't know, it will be a lot less severe. So maybe most civilians, you know, they can mostly start still carry on their life potentially. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, and um, so yeah, it's not an easy answer, unfortunately.
Okay, understood.
I think on our side, I think I can echo on what Tina said. Is honestly, this is a really complicated topic, and honestly, I think there's no like correct answer because nobody really knows what's under the table or what's what really happening. But I think on our side, all we can say is always, prepare for the worst and pray for the best. Is always have even if there's always risks, right? But you just always be prepared. That's all we can say here on this topic. But thank you, Bernard, for asking the question. Yeah, because it's actually a hot topic recently, with all the
Yeah.
tensions. Yeah,
Yeah.
funny story is actually, so we actually have a lot of friends overseas, right? So over all our overseas friends are asking us like, oh, what's happening? Or is this really going to happen? But in Taiwan, people are just walking down the streets, normally continuing their normal lives. So honestly, there's a lot of perspectives, and but yeah, just pray for the best. Pray for the best.
Yeah,
That's all
what
I can
there's
say.
like a kind of like a sister city that people can just go to for a week or 2 weeks until I don't know. I mean, yeah, because
Yeah, I think.
obviously, if let's say if your investor or they want to hear if anything happens, your company nothing is disrupted, right? You won't be stopped. Like your product can still run, right? And so I guess think about from a tech stack perspective as well as from the personnel perspective, what is the plan B if that happens? If the internet are cut off in Taiwan, I guess you say AWS, you can switch. If people maybe you need to have some team in Vietnam, or you need to have another team that's like a backup or something like that. I mean, even teams in Taiwan, they are now tapping engineers in Eastern Europe, or other places, just to, well, not really to escape the war, but a lot of Web3 company, their team members are very distributed. Um, and then actually Eastern Europe, the developers are also not expensive. They might not work as hard, but that's the trade-off. Yeah. So
We were actually invited to visit Ukraine. I think back in April, because Ukrainian government was very keen to start rebuilding their sort of technology base already, and they think we're one of the big employers. But that's a different story. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're probably going to have to do is just show a lot of diversification in terms of not being tied to one particular center.
yeah, you probably can have like one point of failure. So
All right, thank you.
yeah.
All right, thank you. This was a hot topic, and it was a quite interesting question. Thank you, Bernard. I think we're almost out of time, so I want to ask one last running question from our side. So Tina, I want to ask you: is there anything that you could share with us that wasn't mentioned in today's session, but you think is important for all the founders here today?
Yeah, I think, again, that depending on, what you're building, I think finding the right location is really important. So really think carefully about how you choose the best base for your companies. And I think Taiwan, as I mentioned, have a lot of, I guess, advantage. But it's true now we're in a tricky situation. So, but yeah, I think this year, last year, it has been a really interesting time for all of us. The pandemic, the war, the inflation, the roller coaster of the markets. It just shows that there's really like you cannot predict anything, right? So just think really hard about what is it that really matters to you, and what is it that you want to build and spend time on, no matter what, right? It will be worth it, right? So I think really think carefully about your starting point and why you're doing what you're doing, and that will keep you anchored even when times are really tough.